First, we start here today. The takeover of the Democrat Party by its most fringe elements is finally complete this week, as Kamala Harris picks a guy who seems to be to the left of her, to the left of Bernie Sanders, and, well, completely embraced by the radicals in the squad, too. So today, we continue with the radicalism of Tim Walz, because you need to understand this. Tim Walz wants to be the third vice president from the state of Minnesota. He wants to follow Hubert Humphrey and Walter Mondale without following the policies of either. He's nothing like Humphrey, who was a happy warrior, or Mondale, who was a cold warrior. Nor is he like Eugene McCarthy, who was a patriot first and a Democrat second. Walz is the opposite of all that. He's not an icon of decency, never mind an iconoclast, because the party he represents is representative of nothing save extremism anymore. Tim Walz belongs to the party of Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, which is the party of Ilhan Omar and AOC. Tim Walz is a friend of the squad. He endorses them. He's neither a defender of equal justice under the law nor a champion of law enforcement at all. He is a modern-day Democrat, a leftist who thinks liberals are too conservative and voices like the anti-Semitic Bush should be embraced. But she is so radical, she just lost her primary earlier this week, like Bowman before her. But instead of leaving with class, she declared war on the way out the door on Jewish people. Listen to this.
I don't think that there is nothing that happens in my life that happens in vain. So if this happened, it's because it was meant to happen. And let me say, it's because of the work that I need to do. And let me say this. AIPAC, I'm coming to tear your kingdom down.
Oh, AIPAC, I'm coming to get you. That's the Jewish group, of course. And Walz has nothing to say about Bush or Bowman or Omar or any of the folks on the squad, either now or the ones that have been kicked out. Nothing critical to say about these people who swear vengeance against supporters of Israel, or Bowman, who swears and curses at the crowd about Israel before he lost. Walz has nothing to say about Omar, who speaks in the worst terms possible about America and Israel and freedom, and cheers for the likes of the soon-to-be unemployed Bowman. How can someone cheer for a man who acts like this? Just a reminder, here it is.
Our movement is more powerful than their money. Our people are more powerful than their power. And it's time for us to show them the real power of the people, y'all.
Yeah, power of the people, y'all. Anyhow, the man who supports all of that nonsense is who Kamala Harris wants to be her vice president. Perhaps she misunderstands the title. Perhaps Harris thinks Walz should be responsible for vice. I mean, she's not very good with the English language. We know that. Maybe she thinks he should promote and perpetuate the vices of crime and lawlessness like they do in Minnesota. Perhaps Harris thinks that is her current job, too. Perhaps Walz wants the job for this very reason, so he can normalize the vices of the Democrat Party and criminalize the actions of the Republican Party and all conservatives. Perhaps he wants to nationalize his own vices so he can mask his intentions under the guise of public health. Perhaps his silence toward the squad speaks to his beliefs. A liberal Democrat would condemn someone like Bush or someone like Bowman. Liberal Democrats have condemned both, in fact. A liberal Democrat would condemn Ilhan Omar. Liberal Democrats have done just that, denouncing Omar's anti-Semitic lies and all the tropes and all the smears and all the racist comments. About these things, about the takeover of the Democrat Party from within, about a Democrat insurrection in the House and a Democrat coup in the White House, Tim Walz is silent. They all are. He belongs to a silent majority. He stands with the squad, not against them. He says nothing to upset them, which says everything about the state of the Democrat Party today. This is not your parents' Democrat Party. Worst of all, Walz has the audacity to say he stands with us. He doesn't. He has the audacity to suggest we stand with him when his policies are foreign to what most Americans believe, because his ideas are also foreign to native-born Americans. And anathema to foreign-born Americans, because law-abiding citizens are right to fear tyranny and violence, because tens of millions of Americans are victims of crime or veterans of foreign wars. Walz's policies the programs he supports are simply anti-American. Because Walz has no shame, he lies. Because his lies are proof of stolen valor, because we have overwhelming proof that he has lied about his military record over and over and over again. We must not let Walz and his lies go unchecked or unanswered. The mainstream media will, we will not. J.D. Vance, a true veteran, right to call attention to them. Here he was yesterday in Michigan doing exactly that.
I also think it's dishonest. Something, again, if you guys ever get an opportunity to ask Tim Walz or Kamala Harris some questions, he made this interesting comment that the Kamala Harris campaign put out there, and I bet they're regretting they put it out there now, because he said that and he was making a point about gun control, he said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
Walz never saw combat, but has claimed it for years. Walz never saw the horrors of war or the crime that is war. He never saw the cost of war because he never went. He doesn't know the long hours of terror, the sudden moments of terror that define war. And yet over and over again, in pursuit of extreme gun control, Walz claimed he served in a war. He did not. Who is he to say we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets? Who is he to speak of himself as a combat veteran when he is not? Who is he to speak to us about anything when he's responsible for turning America into a war zone? Look at Minneapolis. Is this who Kamala Harris thinks we support? Because it's not. Is this the ticket she thinks we'll support with our votes? Regardless of what Harris thinks, we know what it is. We know the State of the Union is terrible under Biden and Harris. We know the state of Minnesota is in terrible shape because of Tim Walz. Again, Minneapolis, that's the word you need to know. We know the Democrat Party is awful under all three. We know these things because we pay for the policies they all push on us. Look at inflation or interest rates under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Look at the Twin Cities under Democrats or Minnesota under Governor Tim Walz. Minneapolis is a disaster. The city is a fallen city, a city under siege due to the policies of Biden and Harris and the governor, Tim Walz, or should it be a Walz? The city is a reminder of what happens when order succumbs to lawlessness and chaos reigns supreme. The city, a reminder of what happens to the people when the most powerful people in government are partisan hacks, such as life under the squad. And here's a reminder of how the BLM protests were handled when Walz was in charge. Watch this.
Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey has faced heavy criticism for how he handled the unrest following the death of George Floyd. And as John Crowan reports, the mayor now appears to be shifting some of that blame to Governor Tim Walz.
The question has never been, did the National Guard make a difference? It's always been, why couldn't they have been here sooner, before the 3rd Precinct burned Thursday, May 28th?
I think the average person maybe assumes that there's soldiers waiting in helicopters to drop in like they do in the movies.
Governor Walz responding to a trove of emails and text messages released in response to a public records request from City Hall, backing up that Mayor Jacob Frey did indeed ask for the National Guard Wednesday, May 27th. Text from mayor's staff. The mayor just came out and said the chief wants to call in the National Guard to help the 3rd Precinct. A follow-up text exchange from Frey's staff a few hours later. What's happening as far as the Guard? He said Walz was hesitating.
Yeah, do not hail Minnesota, because the state song does not represent Minnesota as it is now. Under Tim Walz, the state is no longer a beacon that is bright and clear. Because of Tim Walz, the good no longer proclaim the state near and far. The Minnesota of Tim Walz is the Minnesota of Ilhan Omar. That's what it is. It's not the Minnesota of 25 years ago. The state is in disarray due to the willful neglect of its governor and others. By abandoning his responsibilities as governor and by governing like a member of the squad, Walz proves that he is a Democrat who hates democracy, frankly. by disrespecting us, by advancing policies that disrespect our rights as citizens, by severing the bonds that tie us together and unite us as citizens. Walz proves he has no connection to us. He wants nothing to do with us. He doesn't like us. Such is the Democrat Party of the squad today. Such is the party of Joe Biden and, yes, now Kamala Harris, the standard bearer. Such is the party of Harris and Walz, who refuse to join this party. We do. We will not be a party to the fast undoing of our rights and of our nation. We will not contribute to this party at all. We will not support this party. We will not vote for this party. We will not trade the chance to make America great again for the guarantee by Harris and Walz to make America worse than it already is. Open borders, inflation, and a whole hell of a lot of control over you and everything you do. We're not going to lose control of our country to these people. There may be a bump in the polls, my friends, but do not fear. We will prevail. Kamala Harris is peaking right now. She's peaking. She might get a little bit ahead here between now and the end of the month, but after Labor Day, you watch and you mark my words. America First will be back on track to win in November. That I can assure you of.